competitive, so you know how much you can incorporate safely into those feeds. Thank you.
Just on that point, there is a place in Curitiba in Brazil who are producing specifically that level for export to Scandinavia.
Ah, well, there you go.
Adele?
Yeah. Lucas, thanks for the presentation. You mentioned 4 million metric tons feed production, aquaculture feed.
Yes.
That is industrial feed?
That is industrial.
All
yes.
industrial. Okay, my second question is, of the all 10 ASEAN countries, which are the leading producers?
Okay, well, for our program, we focused on the top 5, and that would be Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, and that's not in order.
Okay.
I think it's hard to say because right now, when I talked about about the data, we have the FAO data, and there's a lot of estimates in there. We go out into the field and we talk to feed mills, we talk to farmers. We find that there's a lot of numbers that don't match the FAO data.
Sure.
But those are the top 5.
Okay.
And actually, when I was going through the data, I actually found that Myanmar is reporting a very large amount of production as well. But I can't tell you from personal experience. I've not been to Myanmar yet.
You know, Vietnam has seen a huge increase of catfish, pangasius production. What's your outlook, on the Mekong Delta catfish production in the next 5 years?
Well, when we first came to talk to the pangasius industry in 2003, we were talking to the farmers, and they were saying, "Oh, this is the best fish in the world. We can grow it at any density we want, up to 700 metric tons per hectare, and there's no disease, and there's no problems with pollution." And when we talked to them, we said, "Well, that's not going to last forever." They said, "No, it's going to be fine." Now we're seeing that there's disease issues coming up in the industry, that a lot of farmers are complaining about, a lot of surrounding communities are complaining about the pollution to water supplies. What I think is going to happen is you're going to have certification schemes such as WWF and the GAA coming in and working with the industry to make it more sustainable. How they're going to do that, I'm not quite sure. What I do see, though, is that Vietnam is going to continue to increase their production, but not just Vietnam. We're seeing that the Philippines is very interested in pangasius production, and they're looking to increase their production here. They're looking at it in Indonesia with the pangasius jambal, and they're looking at it in other countries as well. As I mentioned, India, I think, is something very interesting because they have a lot of ponds, a very high desire to export, and they could very rapidly move into pangasius and really produce a lot of fish in that area.
Question about the technology on new submersible farm cages.
Yes.
So to what extent you are now working on that submersible cages, and what capacity or capacity ranges for that submersible cage?
Okay, well, the ASIM has been working since 2004 on developing an offshore cage production system. Now, the reason why we were doing this is because our primary area of production with cages that we were working with was in China, and all the nearshore areas in China are fully utilized. They have too many cages in the protected bays in those areas. So the ASA, combined with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and University of New Hampshire, UNH, got together and they developed an offshore cage production technology. And I think I showed you, there was a picture in this where it's sort of like a truncated pyramid. And that has been now tested through many cyclones and typhoons, and survived well. It's 100 cubic meters in volume. It's self-sinking, and it uses floating feeds. And I think the production. Unfortunately, my marine expert isn't here. I think it was 6 million metric tons, but I don't quote me on that.
Thank you, because that would be very helpful for the aqua farmers here in.
Well, I'm assuming you're from the Philippines.
Yeah.
So one of the primary areas that we see this really being established are in places like the Philippines, which is blessed with natural disasters such as storms of all sorts, and places like Vietnam, where they have offshore areas that they could tap, but are also worried about bad weather. So we're looking in the future that work with the industry here to work on offshore cages like this. But it requires really offshore. You can't place one of these cages close to shore in 20 meters of water. It's got to be in deep water because it has to be able to sink below the waves, which are the rough area of the water during storms. We've got a question.
Another question? John?
Yeah, the question I had was, soy protein concentrates that are being made today are largely made going into human consumption. And so they've got the plants set up to produce for human consumption. If we, in fact, set up a plant that was, you were just getting run-of-the-mill soybeans and you were producing it for the feed market and not focused on the food market at all, couldn't that cost be brought down some?
I believe so. And actually, there are companies here in South Asia now that are working on SPC production plants and for feed use, not for human use. So that is coming down. That is coming down the line. But we just at this particular moment, it doesn't make sense. But in the future, it will make sense.
Any further questions for Lucas? Okay, Lucas, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.